So we are live now. Amir, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
And
you, Rebecca.
we wanted to prove that innovation is the most profitable way to invest. So, as you know everything about investments, I wanted to have you today in the panel to coach and guide us in our next ventures. Amir is a friend and also currently the managing partner of Champel Capital Impact Deep Tech Fund in Israel, based in both Jerusalem and Geneva, a Israeli venture capital fund that he has single-handedly or with a few other brilliant minds put together. And I'll let him tell us about his strategy and what he is aiming for with this venture, and also to perhaps educate us on what's the smartest way to invest our capital. If there is one, if there is a secret, if there's a method, please share. So thank you again. Tell us perhaps maybe a little intro about the fund and yourself, and then we can dive into it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rebecca, for having me. So, just in a few words, I think the best thing is simply to first of all to talk about innovation and what's the link between innovation and growth, and from there we'll try to see if there is any way we can link this together also with what I'm doing. But I think that venture capital as a field is really fascinating. It's really wonderful because we're investing in the future, right? We're investing in disruptive technologies. We're investing in how the world of tomorrow, we're investing today into the world of tomorrow. That's what we're doing now. Since nobody knows how the world is going to be tomorrow, of course, we make a lot of, by definition, venture capitalists tend to make a lot of mistakes, right? That's obvious because um, again, that's the business. The business is that you invest in tomorrow. It's very, very difficult to know what's going to be in the future, of course. So, why is innovation, I think, one of the main drivers of growth? So, what do we really mean, first of all, by growth? Growth is, I would say, there's a quantitative aspect and there's a qualitative aspect to growth. So, the quantitative aspect means having more of the same. In other words, more of what we have now, but it stays essentially the same, just we have more of it. Okay, so let's say we have, I don't know, one car. So tomorrow, because we're wealthier, then we have two cars, but
Right.
those cars are the same. That's the quantitative aspect of growth. It's important, but there's another aspect, and it's the qualitative aspect of growth. In other words, yes, we may have one car today, and we also had one car 20 years ago, and 40 years ago, and 60 years ago. So it looks maybe that it's the same car, right? Because we had a car then and we have a car now. But it really is not the same car. We all know that the cars we had when we were young, and we're not that young anymore, unfortunately, but the cars we had when we were young are not exactly the same cars that we have now, because now our cars are, of course, much more technologically advanced, right? They have all kinds of features which we didn't have at the time. So in that respect, we did not have a quantitative growth because we had one car then and we have one car now, but we do have a qualitative growth. In other words, the cars, the word used to describe what we're driving is the same word, but it really is not the same object, right? You can think about it in cars, you can think about it in planes, you can, of course, the planes that we have now are not the same planes we had 50 or 100 years ago. They're called planes, but they are very different machines, right? Etc., etc., etc. We all know, for instance, that that we have cell phones. Everybody now, we all the time on our cell phones, right? But nobody had a cell phone even 15 years ago. I mean, we had cell phones, but we didn't have smartphones, right? And 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, certainly nobody had cell phones at all, right? So you have here, I don't know how much of a quantitative growth it really represents, but certainly a life-changing machine technology that was introduced by entrepreneurs. And these machines have changed all our lives for the better, and in some cases also for the worse. But they have changed our lives. And overall, I think for the better. I think everybody can agree on that. In that overall, we have a lot of usage and positive usage of cell phones, right, of smartphones. So these are just a few examples so that you understand how I would say entrepreneurship and innovation are driving the world. And so much so that, if you look at money, right, somebody who is extremely wealthy, let's say Bill Gates, right, he's got over $100 billion, but he's not a billion times wealthier than somebody who doesn't have money. Why? Because there's so much that you can that you can do with money, right? So, for instance, if we look at, for instance, having access to technologies, to services, right? So, again, the smartphone is a good example. The smartphone of Bill Gates is probably not different than the smartphone that you have, Rebecca. You have an iPhone?
Right, I do, yeah.
Have probably the latest iPhone.
Latest model, yeah.
Right. I don't know what smartphone Bill Gates has. I have no idea. But let's say for the sake of it that he's got an iPhone. So he's got the same as you. He's got the same. He's the wealthiest guy, or he, or whatever. They're the wealthiest guys on earth, and they're exactly having the same smartphone as you have. And at the end of the day, there's a limit to what quantity can bring, but quality is very different. We, as I would say, middle-class people, normal people, average people, are very many times more wealthier and live better lives than somebody who was the top, even the wealthiest person on earth 100 years ago. Look at Mr. Rockefeller, right? Just 100 years ago, he was a billionaire. He had a huge mansion and everything. But was he wealthier than us, than you and me, Rebecca? I'm not sure, because we have access to better medical services. We have access, even in terms of hygiene, something very, very trivial, right? The quality of the products which we can use today to beautify ourselves, right? Our skin are probably better than what he had. I'm sure, actually. We can travel faster, safer, and more comfortably than he could, even with all his wealth 100 years ago, right? Etc., etc., etc. So what made this change possible, that an average person today is probably wealthier than the wealthiest people a few decades ago? It is.
Well, it's that innovation is a key to growth, but not only to progress as well. Should
Yes.
I share with the
Please do.
followers what you've put together? Let me add it here. Maybe the visual will help. So the future of investment, thinking about innovation not just as a key to growth, but it's the way forward. Is it the only way to invest in innovative products and companies?
No, it is not the only way to invest. There are all kind of non-innovative great companies, right? Let's say you invest in pizza companies. So every, I would say, pizzeria has got its own particular way of making its pizzas, right? But at the end of the day, the level of innovation in some of those companies is not very great. It's not very much innovation. Some cases there may be, but overall, a pizza is a pizza, right? But some people know how to do great pizza. It doesn't have to be innovation in that respect. It's what they say in French, right? It's savoir-faire. It's skills which may not be innovation, purely innovation or at all. It may not be innovative in any way, but they know how to do good pizza, and people like to and enjoy to eat the good pizza. So the business is very successful. So you can have businesses which are traditional low-tech business with relatively little innovation, and they're successful. There is something like that, but I would argue that I'm sorry. I would argue that overall, um, it is increasingly dangerous to overlook innovation. As we advance and as the world becomes more and more technological, innovation, the pace of innovation becomes faster and faster and faster. And companies which remain behind in terms of innovation often die. Okay, let me give you a great example. People of our generation can remember a company called Kodak,
Hmm.
right? Remember Kodak? Kodak, we used to take pictures and we had films, right? So and we had to go to the shop and develop the films to get the pictures. Now, of course, these things don't exist anymore. Kodak used to have, I think, 60 or 70% global market share. It used to be huge global leader. And then essentially went bust completely. Why? Because they did not understand the transformation of the world, and they did not understand how the world went from old-fashioned, you know, old-fashioned
Non-digital, yeah.
digital pictures to the world of digital. Now it's even worse than that because and they had the patent for digital pictures. They were the first in the world in that
Yes.
space.
Yeah.
And they sold it for nothing because they thought, who's going to use this stuff? So they didn't care, they didn't understand. So they overlooked innovation. They didn't understand where the world was going, and they went bust. And this is not only the number one in the world, not it was the absolute majority and the vast absolute majority of the market in the world. It was the dominant player that completely went bust to zero.
Yeah.
So this is
The
a great
long.
example. It's a school book, example, but you don't have to go that far. You can see that pretty much everywhere in our day-to-day lives. We understand that when companies do not adapt to the changing world and adopt innovation and make innovation part of their DNA, those companies more often than not will not succeed.
It's a matter of a long-term vision,
Yes.
predicting the future, right?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's what we're talking about. In other words, we have to see where the world is going, and we have to make bets on the future. We don't know. Nobody knows what's going to be, but you have to make bets. And if the bets are the right bets, then you're going to make money, right? Or at least you have a chance of making money. But if you use the wrong bets, then unfortunately, you're going to lose a lot of money. You're going to burn your capital, and it's a tough business. It's not easy, but it's fascinating because you can see today where the world of tomorrow is going. And we have invested in some great companies, and we've seen great technology. Some, by the way, are not successful, but many are. And it's amazing to see how these people, these entrepreneurs, moving with innovation are changing the world and making the world a better place for all of us. Because at the end of the day, we as consumers are benefiting from their entrepreneurship and their innovation.
Yeah. Well, this is a little bit how we've framed here the why. It's the new ideas, the calculated risks, mitigating risk, right? Not just taking risk for the sake of it, and then rethinking what we're doing, rethinking the status quo. Because, like you were giving the example of the pizza, yeah, maybe there's not much innovation to be had, but perhaps around the process, maybe the oven or the time of delivery.
Sure. No, no. It's really maybe I'm not being fair to the pizza makers. I'm sure they're also making pizzas. I have no doubt about that. It's of course, but I try to come up with an example of something which, you know, at the end of the day, it's kind of working and giving a good end result, and innovation there is probably relatively small and incremental rather than transformative.
Yeah, I was reading about this recently. Atomic Habits. So they were talking about a cycling team, small incremental changes, like the cycling team decided to make tiny little shifts on the way they were pedaling. So maybe adjusting the wheel, maybe getting a non-friction kind of closing, and getting like if you think about it, the changes are really small and minor and almost insignificant. But if you add them up, this really made the difference and got them to land first place for many years. And I thought, I mean, stick to the changes that you bring, even if you don't see immediate results. So how does that translate? When you're investing in, sometimes you don't see anything moving or shifting or happening. You stick with your guts or your data,
No,
your strategy.
it's a great question. It's really depends. I mean, there's no answer. There's one, it really it's you have to deal with it on a deal by deal case. In some cases, you if you're really convinced that this is the right thing, then you stick with your guns and you carry on working. In other cases, and often, you have to ask yourself questions. Why is this not working, right? So you have to, and the worst thing you can do is to be closed-minded and to say, oh, I know everything, right? I'm sure it's going to be like that, and then it doesn't work. And here in the comments, Alberto Pazino says something which is really, really true. Look, what he says: so many companies think they know their market, although they lost connection with the people that used to be their customers long ago. Staying closer to the customer is the best way to prevent innovation from disrupting you as a company or as an industry. Yeah, but it's really true. Sometimes you want to be you think you know what you're doing because you're serving your consumers the same way that they used to be served a while ago.
Yeah.
And they were happy, but now they're not happy anymore. Why? Not even because you are worse, but simply because the world has changed and their expectations have changed. And this is true for consumers, but this is always true. So to answer your question, in some cases, you can be in a situation where what you think is going to work is actually adapted for for a certain period of time. Let's say in 2022, right? In this year now, we think that this is what consumers want, and it may be true. But maybe in 2 years from now, in 5 years from now, they will be expecting something else. And you have, as a service provider, you have to adapt yourself to the clients, right? You have to adapt yourselves to the people who make you live, because they are the source of your revenues, right? And in some cases, it means that you have to actually guess what they are going to want because nobody is telling you, right? It's very interesting because when Steve Jobs and Apple came out with the first iPhone, nobody thought it was a big revolution, but nobody understood that at the beginning, how deep the revolution was. Why? Because it was a new product. Nobody knew they were going to like it. They tried. They thought, what, it's a good idea. Let's try it. And this market process of trial and error, and knowing how to backtrack in some cases, okay? Because sometimes, for instance, also Apple, just to stay with this company, because of course it's a market leader, then, they came out with the Apple glasses, and they thought it was going to be a big thing, but it was a complete failure at the end of the day. Very few people used it, it didn't pick up. So they knew how to accept that this was not working, and they stopped. But they tried.
Yeah.
And this is how markets progress and why innovation is profitable, because you don't know, and the companies themselves don't know what their clients want, and people don't know what they themselves want.
Yes, exactly.
And they don't know what they're going to want in the future, even less so, until they try. And in some cases, they can try, they're not going to like it, and in some cases, well, they're going to like it a lot. So this whole trial and error process is how the world progresses. And innovation is all about coming up with new products for the clients, for the consumers, that you as an entrepreneur think that they're going to like. And the consumers think that they're going to like them, or maybe they don't know and they have to discover. And the ones, the innovation that is actually useful for mankind is mostly innovation that passes the test of the market. In other words, that consumers decide to adopt. And some innovation is essentially needless. It can be great technology, but you don't have what to do with it, so it stays on the sidelines. And some innovation is integrated into people's lives and makes the world advance.
Well, thinking about advancement, I was just here looking at this list of, let's say, the big bets. I obviously have my favorite. Do you have any that you would rather?
For instance, we love agri-tech, food tech. Why?
Okay.
Because we believe that, yes, Alberto is giving, again, a very good,
yeah, I was
comment about the PC mask. Amazing. We don't want to go too deep into that, but it's a great example as well. Great.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at agri-tech and food tech, I think that mankind is going through the most amazing revolution in agri-food since man is man, for thousands of years. Yeah. Because of course we have progressed a lot over the years, but I want to say that our food is going to be very, very, very different 20 years from now than what it is now. It is already different a bit than what it was maybe 20 years ago, but not so much. But it will be very, very different. Let me give you two specific examples. We invested in two companies, one being called Remilk and the other one is Aleph Farms. These are amazing companies.
They are, yeah.
So Aleph Farms is lab-grown meat. What does it mean? It means you essentially take a cell from a cow, it can be any mammal really, but let's say from a cow, and you essentially grow this into a steak. So you have real meat. This is not pretend meat. This is not a meat alternatives in that respect. It's meat, just it doesn't come from a cow. It doesn't come from an animal that has been killed.
What do you call it? Impossible meat? I don't know.
No, that's exactly the point, because Impossible Food and all these, and Beyond Meat and all this stuff, these are plant-based meats. So they are so-called, they try to imitate meat, but this is not meat. Where here I'm talking about real meat. That's the great stuff. So it's meat, just doesn't come from a cow. So in terms of impact, it's astounding, because you're essentially getting rid of 99% of the usage of land, of water, of CO2 emissions, of everything. You essentially use very, very, very little resources, but then you get real meat, right? So it's an amazing technology, an amazing company, and the first steaks are hopefully going to be live next year, in 2023 already. So this is not very far away from us.
But is it kosher?
It is, yes. Fascinating story. It's kosher, yes. It's kosher, and not only kosher, but Jewish dietary laws, the kosher laws, make it forbidden for us to eat together milk products and meat products, right? Yeah. So, but this is not in terms of the religious law, the kosher law, this is not considered to be meat. So we will be able to have a strictly kosher a cheeseburger with the meat of Aleph Farms, and no problem, because this is not considered to be
animal derived. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty groundbreaking. I think some specific cultures, regions, countries will right into this. Yeah.
For the Jews, it's amazing. Also for the Muslims, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's halal also. They can also use it. And Remilk is essentially the same idea. It's not the same technology. It's here duplicating, if you want, the DNA. Yeah. But the idea of Remilk is to have real milk, just not coming from a cow. Yeah. Again, you get rid of the cows, you get rid of 99% of the water, of the land, of the energy, electricity, whatever, and you produce essentially real dairy products, real milk, just without all the animals behind. So this is amazing. And these are just two great examples, but you have these sort of examples for fish products, for eggs, and
Yeah.
etc. etc. I'm talking about a lot of
Yogurt,
sugar-rich,
cheese, yeah, ice
yeah,
cream. I
sugar,
mean,
everything. But not
yeah,
only that, you also have companies working on sugar reduction because we
yeah,
have a massive problem in terms of the world being too way too obese. So this is a way to get rid of that, or not get rid, but to significantly diminish obesity as a problem in the world, because we are going to hopefully have in the coming years products which are tasty, which are sweet, but without much less sweeteners and less
and
of these
yeah, yeah,
bad things for your health. So these are just a few examples. So I love personally agri-tech and food tech. But again, in terms of healthcare, our fund also deals with healthcare,
yeah,
deep technologies. It's amazing because medicine technologies, health technologies have progressed so much over the past decade, and we live much, much longer thanks to that, because we can cure people. But this is the way, if you want, the technologies that we're seeing are going to take this even a step further, and we're going to be carrying on living longer and longer and better lives, because we are going to be able to take care of our ailments, of our sicknesses in a great way. And we're very, very, very bullish about some of those technologies. Of
yeah.
course, we can go, but this, into more and more companies and
Indeed.
technologies. But this is not the subject.
Yeah, you told me about bioconvergence, biohacking, and all
Right.
these seem to be flourishing fast in Israel, and you're involved in these deep technologies.
Yes, bioconvergence is fascinating. It's really putting together engineering on one hand
Yeah,
and deep technology together with healthcare. There's going to be spillover effects to other industries. But yeah, I think we invested in a company, an amazing company called Victorious. So
okay,
it's the idea is to have a chip in the heart. So what's the idea? The idea is that people, when they have heart failure and heart problems, often we have medicines which allow to cure them. But the problem is we don't have the live situation of the heart, so we don't know how to give the right measurement,
yeah,
of those medicines. And because of that, there's a lot of people have to go back to the hospital, and
yeah,
and it costs a lot of money. It's very problematic. So the idea here is to take a chip, a little computer, to put it in the heart, straight into the heart, and it works also with it's very, very ingenious how it works, and then essentially gives a pulse information about the live situation of the heart to some sort of a belt that you put around your waist. This belt has got a computer inside. It knows how to receive the signal from the chip in the heart. After 60 seconds, right, 1 minute, you once a day, you have the information, and you know what medicines you have to give to the patient, so you can save people from dying. And once upon the time, for instance, people had heart attack, and it was, people used to die pretty much.
alone, and just yeah, they
Right.
could have been
Of course, this is
saved
not this
if
is not the
only.
case anymore, and certainly not in the same at the same level, because we have developed so many of these technologies, a lot of them, by the way, in Israel, which allow to keep the arteries open, and let the blood flow, and save people. So it's amazing that we have invested in 5 medical companies over the years, and we are partners in saving people's lives. It's amazing in terms of impact, in terms of how you feel also, because we really believe in doing well by doing good.
Yeah,
And it's amazing to invest in something where hopefully we're going to make a lot of money, but not only make a lot of money, but feel that you're making the world a better place.
yeah. This is, well, all new, out with the old. I think COVID has only accelerated this transformation that was already on the edge of taking place. But especially in those areas that you've mentioned, food tech has been redesigned, and food delivery. And some people say we won't even have kitchens in the future. It will be a thing of the past. Well, I'm not a big cook, but maybe we will replace them by our own gyms, because now everything is so home based, I suppose. Isolating for some, but liberating for others. Um, do you see this trend impacting the way that you're investing? Have you kind of like thought through or changed your investment strategy due to COVID? I suppose you're looking at a different set of companies now. Maybe.
Well, no, not really. Actually, one thing that the COVID has done, it has accelerated the digital transformation. I think
Okay.
everybody has understood through
Yeah.
COVID that the world has changed, that things are not the same that they used to be, and there are plenty of things that would have taken maybe 10 years to happen, and they happen in 3 months.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing that changed in the COVID is people's heads. The fact that we are having a LinkedIn Live now is something that we would not have been doing 3 years ago, for instance, right? Or
Probably. Yeah.
highly unlikely, highly unlikely. All the way we work with Zoom and Teams, whatever, and all these video conferences, and the fact that a lot of things have changed and are here to stay forever. More flexibility. People understand, have lived through a period which has changed people's habits. So in different ways, the world is different. But I don't think that it has changed in the sense that new things have popped up. I think just the time to market, if you want, the willingness of the clients to change has increased dramatically, dramatically, and therefore things are going to take are going to be shorter to develop now than they used to be. I think that's the big change. That's how we see things. But in terms of food tech, I thought food tech is interesting before.
And
MedTech,
it's still, yeah. Okay.
I don't think it makes any change in terms of how I look at these markets. The changes are here, they will be here, they were here. It's going to go faster, I think.
So, I mean, the morale is first comes innovation, then comes growth. It kind of is a
It goes
result.
together. Growth fuels innovation, with innovation fuels growth. So it's like,
Okay. Okay.
uh,
But in any case, I mean, it's just hard to know what innovation to bet on, right? And that's where
that's our
you
job as a venture capitalist. And sometimes, sometimes if we hit once or twice, we've
yeah.
made it. We've done it because when you succeed big. So
These are the companies that you're betting on, right?
yeah, so these are the companies that we did in our first fund, the second fund also here. Some of them here in different industries. Some of them in, as I mentioned, Raymond Calais Farms in food tech. Some of them in agri-tech, Clary Food, Seedex, amazing stuff. Some of them in medtech and different industries.
Yeah.
It's
It's a team of
it's an amazing world to see how innovation makes everything different, and the whole world is being transformed and disrupted. It's amazing.
yeah. We have some interesting comments here. Ron is telling us, take for example Skype, which has been around for
Yeah,
years.
Ronetel says yes.
Yeah, and so it could have
I love.
taken the opportunity of COVID to move further, and yet it didn't. And Zoom took that space and was very lucky. I guess the luckiest company throughout the crisis.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe something to study. But yeah, I think the headquarters in Amsterdam for Europe now. Yeah. So
I never liked Skype. I tried it many times over 15 years ago, and I never liked it. It never worked for
they
me.
were the first, and yet they did
Never
not.
really worked. Never. I
Yeah.
didn't like it. It didn't really work. And even Zoom was here already for a long time. It didn't really. It
Well, but
wasn't.
it's,
It
yeah,
was not adapted widely. And Ron is completely right. It just
frictionless.
yeah, but the willingness of people to change habits is a great opportunity. That's what Ron says, and he's completely right, because that's what I said in the what happened in the COVID is that people's head changed, and that opened the whole world of opportunities in many different industries, because even the same technology, maybe people wouldn't have looked at it 3 or 5 years ago, but now it becomes more relevant, and certainly new technology. So the willingness of people to be more flexible, I think is going to make the whole world much more tilted towards innovation and the willingness to do things differently. So I think we're going to an amazing world. I think the whole world is going to change very, very fast. And if I'm looking at the world 10, 15, 20 years from now, it's going to be a much better world.
One of the things we didn't mention is impact. So this is where you focus some of your effort or all of it, and are you focused mostly in Israeli startups? How do you
Yes, we only do Israeli companies
Yeah.
because Israel has become the global powerhouse in terms of innovation. I just looked at the numbers which came out just literally last week of 2021, and the first half of 2022, and in terms, for instance, of unicorns, of $1 billion plus companies.
Yeah.
Israel per capita, Israel is the leading
Country.
country in the world, 5.2 unicorns per million inhabitants.
Wow.
United States is just one. It's like Israel is over 5 times more than the US,
Yeah.
right? And if you look, for instance, at countries like Germany, England, France, which are also good
Yeah.
VC ecosystems, but they're just they're less than a tenth of the
Yeah.
number of unicorn per inhabitants that we have in Israel. I mean, it's staggering. Israel is
Yeah.
over 10 times more. I mean,
I mean,
it's
everybody works in a startup in Israel.
no, it is amazing what's happening in Israel in terms of innovation and
Staggering.
impact or not, but overall innovation is staggering. So I
Yeah.
don't need have my team on the
You
ground.
wouldn't look anywhere else. Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
don't need to go and look and scout the world. There's great things everywhere, but I have enough on my plate here.
On your plate. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you want to probably cover some of the aspect for doing good, doing well. So impact investing. I mean, it's so broad. It's not just about green. It's not just about non.
No, it's making the world a better place.
But yeah, profitability with purpose, right? So a bit of a triple P. What do we call it? It has to be profitable. It has to be purposeful. No, there's 5 Ps. I think profitability, peaceful, partnership. How do you assess them? Do you have a method? Do you run them through like a sort of process of
Yes,
evaluation?
yes, for sure. You have to be able to quantitatively and
Yeah.
qualitatively assess
Yeah.
impact. It's complicated. I don't think
Formula. Yeah.
there's a magic formula to do that. But what you have to do, for instance, I'm going to give you an example. We are looking at an amazing company who's got a technology which is about hopefully to save people from drowning, because the problem is it's the number one cause of death among kids is drowning in pools and the sea. So they have a computer-based vision, technology, whose goal is to be able to see that somebody is about to drown even before he drowns, and certainly after he drowns. So
Oh wow, that's incredible.
the lifeguards are going to get an SMS saying so somebody is drowning. Go and save him.
Yeah.
So if in 10 years from now I can say we have saved tens
Yeah.
of thousands of lives, well, that's a great KPI for me.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it. I know
Yeah.
after 120, when I die,
Yeah.
reach heaven, and God will tell me, you have invested in this company thanks to your efforts, among others. Of course, it's thanks to the entrepreneurs, but also thanks to you, as somebody who believed in the entrepreneurs. We have saved the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people over decades. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So this is something that you want to count, to
Yeah.
say doing well by doing good. So yes, we want this company to succeed. We want it to make a lot of money and give our investors, our LPs, of X's, a nice multiple on their money. Sure. But also, and it's not contradictory, it goes together, right? We want to be able to say we have saved the life of however many people. So this is the sort of thing we do.
So I think this is pretty much where We part because what I will suggest is, if people want to contact you, acquire specific advice for their investment needs and appetite, they can reach you here, info at champelcapital.com or through LinkedIn, or, well, I won't give them your personal email, but if you feel like you want to share it, you can feel free
They
to
can
share.
share it. My email is very public. You can
Okay.
go on my profile
Your
and
profile.
send me a
Yeah.
message, and no problem.
Or so the easiest way to approach you is probably on LinkedIn to add you up, and
Yes.
that's or through the page of your fund. Yeah, I mean, this was really very enlightening for me, and I think we had a lot of people participating and asking thoughtful questions. That was very. So thank you for the followers, the viewers. This is going to stay live. I mean, it's going to stay recorded on LinkedIn, but also it goes on YouTube if people want to watch it again or share it. But Amir, I just want to thank you
Thank
because
you, Rebecca. It's
taking
a
the
pleasure.
time. You're live from Jerusalem, right?
Yes.
I'm here live from Switzerland, so no borders. And well, I can't wait to do another one with you and
With pleasure.
talk
Anytime.
about remilk, raw milk, or yeah, food tech would be a fun one to do. So yeah,
We can go more in depth if you want.
yeah. Well, thank you. Do you want to add anything before we part?
No, no.
No.
I think you said everything. Again, if anybody's interested, welcome to be in touch with me. And let's bet on the future and make good bets.
Yes, it's a game of skills or a game of chance. Who knows? But thank you so much, Amir, and I'll see you again maybe in a month from now for another live. We'll make sure to share with you all. And thanks everybody for participating. Ron, Alberto, we had Mark. Yeah, lots of great questions. Thank you all.
Bye.
Right. Bye bye.